Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Let's show the differences between division.
When it comes to my band and my crew, we try to, we want to make it as safe of a place as possible to see the music, to listen to the music. We just kind of do it the way that we do it, the way that we hope keeps everyone safe. When I talk about live music, it's that communal energy, what it is about live music that human beings need. And ultimately, it's those moments where we're all together in chorus and singing, that tangible, communal, human element of live performance. It's what reminds us that we're not alone.
And unity.
Nearly half of all the homeless people living in the streets in America happen to live in the state of California. What they are doing to our beautiful California is a disgrace to our country. It's a shame. The world is looking at it. Look at Los Angeles with the tents and the horrible, horrible, disgusting conditions. The conditions in Nancy Pelosi's once great city of San Francisco are deplorable. They're deplorable.
This is how Donald Trump speaks of the less fortunate, declaring war on a state he views simply as a political football.
Ban urban camping wherever possible. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that, but we'll give them the option. We will then open up large parcels of inexpensive land, bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists, and create tent cities where the homeless can be relocated and their problems identified.
Let's be clear. Some on the network may disagree, but this is flat out depraved and shows he will attack the less fortunate, which comes from many factors like, say, living in the United States, and just shows he wants to inflict his will on anyone he can. Meanwhile,
here's how it works.
Grohl shows what kindness looks like, what humanity looks like, what wanting a more just society, loving thy neighbor, putting in the work to benefit society instead of a divide and conquer model looks like. It was such an incredible gesture by Grohl that it picked up steam on national television, though he did not want the fanfare. He is deserving, of course.
The last thing before we go tonight is a good one. There goes my hero. Southern California is in the middle of the longest cold snap in almost 20 years. Shockingly, the normally mild climate is now hit with snow, rain, and frigid temperatures, leaving one of the most vulnerable populations, the homeless, out in the cold. Enter rock star Dave Grohl. Yes, the Foo Fighters frontman. He stepped in to do what he could to help. And he spent 24 consecutive hours barbecuing to feed people at Hope the Mission's Northridge, California Center. The director of development there, Grace Acheta, said Grohl stayed overnight to prep the meat and ensure that it was ready for dinner the next day, making enough food to serve 450 people. But here's the thing. She says, quote, he wanted no glory for it. He was just like, I just want to do this for you guys and give back in that way. She added, and by the way, it was amazing. The best barbecue we have ever had.
They'd go further per Rolling Stone. Grohl grilled round after round of meat to help the organization hit its goal of serving 3,500 meals in need-based communities in Los Angeles. His leadership then led to this.
So this got me interested. How much do Americans actually volunteer, with an organization, formally volunteer? And if we look at 2021, we see as 23% of Americans actually did so. That is the lowest in at least 2 decades. It was down from 30% in 2019.
Obviously, COVID hurt that number, but it was good to see a direct call out from mainstream news, and likely it would get many feeling like they need to do something similar to Grohl. And by the way, Grohl spent his Super Bowl Sunday grilling for the less fortunate. Not just any day, but one of the biggest days of the year for Americans. From Consequence of Sound, back in December of 2023, Grohl spent a day off from Foo Fighters' Australian tour feeding the homeless in Melbourne, Australia. Before that, he spent more than 18 hours behind the smoker cooking for at-risk people impacted by winter storms in SoCal. Let's also just think about how Donald Trump views education in this country.
We're ending woke immediately. You know, I ended woke totally. And then they, in their first week, they reestablished it. It's crazy.
But it's not just him. Via The Guardian, Project 2025 does lay out how they would dismantle the Department of Education. The Heritage Foundation's manifesto has been widely linked to Donald Trump, as many of his associates have joined the initiative, including Johnny McEntee, who we have covered on this program. They go further. Project 2025 calls for privatizing education and driving out any programs related to LGBTQ plus youth or diversity.
I was raised by a school teacher, so I knew as a child how hard my mother worked, not just at the school, but within the community.
He'd reflect on his mother, a teacher, in this very video. There she is at the bottom of the screen.
Every morning I would wake up in our little house in Springfield, Virginia, and my mother was already ready to get us in the car and get us to school, knowing that she had a full day ahead of her with hundreds of children that relied on her to help them, move forward in life. And every night after dinner, I would watch my mother at the desk in the living room working on the plan for the next day. And so I watched my mother make plans to help other people my entire life. I started looking back on that and thinking, well, who's making the plan for the teachers? I attribute a lot of my success to my mother's faith and belief in me as a person and as a kid, which is something that I think most teachers do with their students. You have to believe in the child and understand that every kid learns differently.
Does this sound like a man who wants to gut the very profession his mother found success in, and coincidentally, he did as well because of her teachings?
You know what I love? I love seeing some young conservatives, because I know it's not easy. Keep up that fight. Bring it to your schools. You don't have to be indoctrinated by these loser teachers that are trying to sell you on socialism from birth.
Of course, it is not just Trump Sr. and the Heritage Foundation. It is also trust fund babies like this who were born an inch from home plate. In this speech, it's like he's playing pool and hit the 8-ball in with his first shot. Additionally,
as a kid, I did struggle in school. For me personally, I started playing music when I was pretty young. I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And that really became my passion and my obsession. It came to the point where I had the opportunity to go and travel the world playing music. And I went to my mother and I said, I think I want to follow this path. And my mother, I think because she had been teaching children like me for decades, understood that that it was maybe better for me to leave school and go out into the world and learn that way.
You could not have more different approaches in life.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Lastly, Grohl spoke on Trump the bully via GQ. For someone who has gone around the world as much as him, has Grohl felt the impact of Donald Trump in regards to what other countries feel about Americans? He interjects, of course. I remember when we were touring in the 90s, people would come up to me and still spoke of wanting to come to the U.S. to see Texas and see the desert, to walk around the Big Apple. The American dream was still tangible, still desirable. Today, the American dream is broken. I've probably traveled internationally more than Donald Trump. And the one thing I understand that he doesn't is that the world isn't as big as you think it is. It is all in your neighborhood. India, Asia, Iceland. Aren't other solar systems? I am ashamed of our president. I feel apologetic for it when I travel. Listen, who cares what I think about guns or religion? But the thing about Trump that stings the most is this. He just seems like a massive jerk. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/tytsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.